Every day I go to work with her, I'm excited to do whatever scene we're going to do. Be ready, because if you're not ready, I'm going to steamroll you in this scene. I have fallen in love with working with this kid. It's about a Mountie and a girl, and there's an episode near the end that's pretty special for that. Hard fought shot to get, I think, is going to blow people away. Maybe there's more to McGinty than meets the eye.
Your chemistry with Pascal is so strong. Like, are we going to see a lot more emotion? Because I feel like you guys have been through everything, as a character throughout this entire time. So if you can just touch on um, basically, what we can look forward to seeing between the two of you for this one.
Sure. Yeah, I am always happy to talk about my relationship with Pascal. Normally, I like to poke a lot of fun at her, but she's not here, and it's not as much fun when she's not here. But I think that, I mean, you touched on it. 13 years, 13 seasons. I started at the beginning of season two, and she started the end of season one. So that's a lot of time and a lot of stories to cover in that period. And I remember we kind of, oh, certainly not a rocky start, but when you meet somebody, even though we kind of knew each other a little bit beforehand, it takes a little bit of time to find, and as it turns out, for both Pascal and I, we kind of define everything through our sense of humor. And as soon as I found out what her sense of humor was, I knew we were golden, and no pun intended with Goldie, but she's been she's one of my best friends. We joke about in the beginning that I would be lucky if I ever broke into her top 100. And the real joke was that she would always be in my five because I really only have about four friends. So so but she told me the other day that I broke her top five, which is
Yay.
pretty awesome. But I guess the chemistry just comes down to the fact that neither of us take ourselves too seriously on set, but we take the work seriously. And I can give her notes. It's kind of a no-no for other actors or direct, too many. It's not my job to give her notes, but right from the beginning, we're like, hey, you should try this, or you should try this. And we've never resisted that. There's never been anything but this great collaboration that we have. And this season, they both get tried again. And I had been saying on the previous interview that we have this uh, young lady that we foster in the beginning of the show, well, pretty much for the whole season. And she really stole my heart this year. So I barely even noticed Pascal. But no, I think you're right. We've gone through a lot on this show as a married couple, and what I think is great about that is that the marriage itself is stronger all the time, no matter what they go through. And I do think that the foundation of our relationship is our friendship and our humor, and that's a good foundation for a marriage in general. And I just think that having her in my corner and me in her corner, we're going for lunch tomorrow, as a matter of fact, but um, I think every day I go to work with her, I'm excited to do whatever scene we're going to do. And it's been like that for 13 years, and I hope it continues. I'm very lucky to have a scene partner and well, essentially a business partner like her, and I hope it continues. And if you tell her I said any of this nice stuff, I'll never do another interview with you again.
Never. My lips are sealed.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin. I'm Julie with Suspenders and Buttons. So nice to talk to you again.
I know who you are.
So Lee has grown so much since arriving in spectacular style on a motorcycle. How do
Mhm.
you think he's changed the most, and what do you think has stayed the same for Lee?
Good question. I think I had I think I had the best arrival
Hmm.
on the motorcycle with that
100%.
with the big crane shot and everything. And I think that in the beginning, and I've talked about this a lot in the past too, is I've always tried to play Lee as kind of a Teflon guy. Like nothing really phases him too much. He's just really easygoing and, he's very patient and calm and rational. And I think I did that for quite a few seasons. But the only problem with that is that that's not really indicative of real life. Once trauma and tragedy start to happen, you have to develop some depth, more depth, and things will get through. You can't be Teflon through everything. And I think that what's been fun, and Pascal and I talk about this all the time, the humor on the show is key for us because that's how we communicate through humor. So that we get to do quite a bit of funny stuff. Her character is kind of wacky, I kind of ground her, and together we make this sort of little these humorous scenes, and we love it. But without the scenes where you ground everything in something real and something more profound, the comedy just seems like silly and farcical. And so we love that dichotomy between doing something funny and something heartfelt. And in this season in particular, we do have a scene, like, gosh, I think it's in episode 4, and I can't get into too much detail, but we've talked about it a lot in press so far this year, where it was one of these scenes where you don't get to have that depth of performance without the time. Like, we've had so much time together that we've built this way of speaking to one another. So it's a simple scene and a lot happens, but it's quite still. And everybody talks about how nice a scene it was, and we loved shooting it. So yeah, there's been a big emotional change in Lee, and I think that really it's just that it's the depth. I mean, when you add family, a wife and a family, and businesses and friendships, you can't help but change. And so I would say in the beginning, Lee was more of just a bit of a dandy, and nothing fazed him, and now he's like a pillar of the community, and everything phases him. I guess that would be my answer.
We love that. We love that about Lee.
Cool.
I'm
Who's
Rachel
next?
from Hallmarkies Podcast. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And yes, and so I'm curious, obviously you do a lot of scenes with Pascal, but I'm curious, who is somebody that you don't get to do very many scenes with that you would like to, that you wish you could do more?
Well, that's pretty loaded because I like everybody. I like working with everybody. Viv and I talk a lot about how they established us as sort of like potential best friends, and then we have a great scene coming up.
Ooh.
I think it's maybe episode 5 or something like that, and that's nice. So Viv and I joke about that. I love working with Chris. We always talk about that, but we do a fair number of scenes together. I don't do a ton of scenes with Gowan anymore, and I like working with Martin. He's a really interesting character, and I feel like every time he and I do a scene where it's just the two of us, it's really fun and interesting. Um, but I will say that there's, and I have said it again a few times, but we have a new character that's on this year, and the young actress, she's 14, and Lee and Rosemary foster her, and I have fallen in love with working with this kid, and so right now I kind of just want to do all my scenes with her. She steals everybody's heart. So but I would, yeah, I've Viv and I would say I've joked most with Viv about doing scenes because they established us like we were going to be best friends, and that we're best friends who don't spend any time together. That would be
Good.
my answer.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Catherine with Rom-Com Love Podcast. I let's talk about the other girl who steals our hearts, little Ellie
Sure.
as Goldie.
Yep.
She okay, episode 1, the most adorable, holding, Lee's hand outside the park for the
Yep.
pictures and everything like that. Do you have some fun behind the scenes moments you can share about working with her? Because you
Oh
had her
my.
since she was a baby.
Yeah, she's a trip. We fell in love with her the first time. So the very first, okay, I'll backtrack here a little bit. They didn't want to give us a baby. Babies take time. And we had babies already, and we had twins, and it's hard work, and it slows production down, and it's expensive. I hate to bring that part up, but it is what it is. So they didn't really want to give us a baby. But we did the birth scene, and that was just a baby, and then we went into the next scene, and we had Ellie, and her first day it didn't go well. She didn't want to play. She was 1. She didn't want to be there. She was teething, and everybody was like, "See, this is what we meant. This is what we were talking about." And then the very next day, we went back and we had the next scene with her, and right away it was different. We were hiding Easter eggs and stuff around the place, and all she had to do was climb up onto the boardwalk and find some Easter eggs in a tree, and she just did it, grabbed it, looked right at us, and then held out the Easter egg, and we were like, "Okay, There you go. I mean, that's gold. And every time that kid smiles, she has one of the most radiant smiles. She's so joyful and so confident just in her life. Her parents are wonderful people and they do a great job with her. But that kid has a joie de vivre that you just don't see very often. She's always laughing and smiling and playing, and her favorite things are the rocks on set. So she's always picking up rocks and throwing rocks at people. But she's it's interesting because my kids are a little bit older now, and so I don't have that connection with young kids so much anymore. And suddenly we've got this baby again, and you forget how infectious it is and how joyful it is to be around a kid that age, especially one like Ellie, where the smile, like what she, okay, maybe more than rocks, she loves when Pascal and I swing her in between on our arms. We do the
Oh,
big swings.
yeah.
That kid just loves it, and that smile on her face, we've posted a few pictures of it, and it's just, and I also think that if you look at her, she really does kind of look like a cross between Pascal and I think.
Yes.
It's
Yep. Great
easy,
Yes.
casting.
yeah, it's easy to buy as one of our
Mhm.
kids, and she has that same kind of Rosemary smile, like it's just,
Mhm.
you know. So she's great. I couldn't say enough good things about her. She's a great kid.
No, you guys definitely lucked out. We love her.
Yes, we lucked out huge. That's another thing. Pascal did do that. They reached out to her and was like, "Would you like to come in and meet some of the babies?" And she met five or six of the babies. I was busy that day, and Ellie was the one that she thought was the best fit. And we met her at the park, and to this day, before we start shooting every season, Pascal and I go to the park by Pascal's house. We meet with her and her mom and dad, and we just play on the swings and stuff for a little while just to get reintroduced. And so when she gets to set, she's not afraid because she's only three and a half. So yeah, great kid.
Hi, Kevin. It's Stephanie from the Heart Emotion podcast.
Hello.
So in episode one, we got to see Lee and Bill and Nathan together on the boardwalk, which was fun to see the three of them together because we've seen it kind of be Rosemary with Bill and Nathan over the last couple of seasons. And so that was fun for us. What can you share about the collaboration that we might see between the three of them moving forward?
Well, I love working with Jack and Kevin's a ball to work with. He's got a great sense of humor. The only thing about working with Jack is he doesn't remember anything. That's an age joke, but it is true. He doesn't. No, I'm joking. No, I love working with Jack. Jack's a trip. He's got so many great stories, and I do think he's one of the guys that I actually miss working with. We used to do a bit more stuff back in the day, and now I do like working with him, and they have such Kevin and Jack get along really well. They're pretty close, and they have a great shorthand between the two of them. So it's nice to be able to be a part of that. And although getting too close to Kevin makes me feel pretty short, but what can you do? But I do like working with those guys. I hope that they pursue it a little bit more moving in the seasons moving forward. He is the mayor. I think he fits in with that makes a little, threesome there. I think it would be a good fit for Lee to be a little bit more involved. Jack and I have a really good shorthand with, off camera sense of humor. So, yeah, I can't say enough about those two guys. I'm happy to be in any scene with them.
So they were approaching McGinty.
Yep.
Will we continue to see the three of them go deeper with that?
Yeah, we do a little McGinty stuff. One of the scenes that I was talking about earlier about where Pascal and I had this kind of nice, calm, still moment as is a result of McGinty scenes. And I think it is kind of neat because Lee breaks character a little bit and gets pretty upset in some of these first few episodes because of the loss, and he lets it get to him. And Nathan has to step in and straighten them out a little bit, which is an odd thing because they're friends, but they're both sort of pillars of the community as well. But Nathan's got to do what a Mounties got to do, and it was kind of interesting. And I think that the whole McGinty thing runs for a long time. The actor playing McGinty does a really good job. I he was he was doing all these character actory things beforehand, like, doing spitting into the spittoon and stuff before scenes, and I was just like, I guess that's what it would have been like back in the day. So I think Jack was there back in the day, so he was giving him notes on what to do.
Nice. Nice.
Hi,
Thanks.
Kevin.
Hey,
Hi,
how's
how
it
are
going?
you?
Good, thank you.
I'm Roxanne from Chat with Roxanne, which is connected to everything about Hallmark. We've met before. So, can I ask a favor of you
Yeah.
before I ask my question? My favorite character is Rosemary, and I've never had the opportunity to meet Pascal and let her know. And since you're having lunch tomorrow, can you tell her that I'm a bit obsessed with her and her character? That'd be
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. I'll tell
Thank
her
you.
that.
I
Yes.
appreciate that.
I'll tell her to
Now,
get
my
the restraining order ready.
okay. Well, we live too far away, so she's
All
safe.
right.
She's
All
safe.
right. I will pass that on.
Thank you. So, I'm interested in what you can share about the special effects because episode two, when it comes to the special effects with the fire,
Mhm.
which is not, we're not leaking anything,
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, was that all like computer generated or
I am friends with our director of photography. And
okay?
so occasionally I'm invited to go do the color timing, which is sort of when they change, it's in
Hmm.
part of the editing, the final editing and stuff, and VisFX is part of that. And up until the last minute, they weren't that good.
Really?
Yeah, so there were some changes made because I agree. I thought that they ended up being really great. One of the
Yes.
things, I know I'm not supposed to belabor this, but we're not a big budget show. And
Hmm.
big budget shows can play around with toys all the time. And it's fun. I've been on big budget shows and it's fun to play with toys. But when you don't have that kind of money, you really have to trust that the producers are going to come up with the money and VisFX is going to come up with the result, and that between them and with along with the director of photography that you get the final look right, because it's really hard to fake a fire if
Yes.
it sucks, like it's just it's not going to have any of the gravitas if it's like, a sparkler in the corner and we're
Hmm.
all running from it. So um, I do think that what I saw is much, much better than what I originally saw. So I was very happy with that. And I think in the end, I really do think it lends a sense of excitement, and I think it gives us, when you start with a bang like that, it drives the storyline forward. Like if the VisFX fell flat on this, all of the performances, all the drama would just
Hmm.
deflate. So I think it was necessary. So if it was a matter of the producers having to dig a little deeper, I'm glad they did.
Yes, I appreciated it. I mean,
Me
I
too.
can't, yes, I can't wait for everyone to get to see it. Thank you.
Oh, yes, you're very welcome.
All right. This is Eric from Hallmark Mysteries and More. Hello again,
Hello.
Kevin.
Hey.
Um, so as the first question, just a quick one is, do you and Rachel have the same decorator with that background that you both are sharing there?
I'm in my wife's office right now, so you have to ask my wife.
So, but no, so back when we had talked about a year ago when you were doing Nellie,
Yep.
and one of the things that you were excited about was in a mystery that there's hopefully multiple episodes, so you get to build characters.
Hmm.
But you've been doing this one now for, like you say, many seasons, 12
Yep.
seasons,
Yep.
right? So is there like a flip side where maybe doing it that many is sort of becomes a challenge of how does your character continue growing when it's been that long?
That's a very interesting question. I hadn't thought of that. I guess I would say maybe counterintuitively that having different showrunners gives different directions. So sometimes we'll have a showrunner that maybe doesn't isn't fully on board with certain storylines for Lee or Rosemary, whomever, and then you change up storyline showrunners, and suddenly you're changing direction. I think if it was just linear all the time with one showrunner all that time, there's benefits that come with that, but maybe one of the negatives is that it could possibly get flat, but with having a few different showrunners and changing directions here and there, having characters come and go over time, and I guess I would also, even though I've said this ad nauseum, when you have a scene partner like Pascal, every day is so fresh. Like it's kind of like it's like going to theater almost because we're like little school kids sometimes. When we meet in the morning in the hair and makeup trailer, we kind of have this shorthand where we don't really talk about the scene or what we're going to do or any ideas, and we both have very different ways of doing things. Pascal's more of a last minute person and then prepares and crams. I need to prepare way ahead and then forget about it all. And then we get together and it's still so much fun. I think I just fluked out with my partner, and I love going in there with her. And it has to do with everybody else as well, but primarily my stuff is with Pascal, and that we haven't had that lull yet because I think we just really love working with each other so much, and because we're good friends, there's just no reason for us to be stagnant. Like we just keep poking each other and pushing each other and trying new things. And I guess I got into this business in the beginning eons ago, not as long ago as Jack, but a long time ago. And I wanted to be an artist and I wanted to create. And I guess that is still in me somewhere. So every day when I'm with her, I still feel that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to Donna, was starting at the beginning again.
Perfect. This was a fan question from one of my listeners. With the idea of bringing in Goldie and for Lee and Rosemary to have a child, what were your first thoughts? Like, how did they bring it to you guys that, this was the time for Lee and Rosemary to bring, a daughter or a child into the storyline?
Well, they didn't bring us anything. Pascal demanded a baby. She demanded a baby for several seasons, and I think they were hoping she would just shut up and go away.
I'm
And
not
that's if you
surprised.
know anything about Pascal Hutton, shutting up and going away isn't part of the DNA.
Mm-mm.
But she was very persistent. My as I mentioned earlier, my hang up was that again, I am not as old as Jack, but I'm not young. And dealing, hoisting around a little baby all the time it could be tiresome. I've done that. I've done that part of my life already. So I was a little like, if we should adopt a 16-year-old. I wouldn't have to carry them around so much. But Pascal was adamant that it was good for our storyline. It was good for our character, and she was right. It was we found the perfect kid, perfect candidate, Nellie, and I hope that kid decides to stay for a long, long time because she's a joy to have on set. Um, but it was not them bringing it to us. If anything, they tried to hide it from us for as long as possible. But there was one determined Miss Hutton.
Mm-hmm.
She got her way in the end.
I'm not surprised.
No, neither am I.
Hi, Kevin. Sarah from Suspenders Unbuttoned. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. Nice to see you again.
Did
We
you get a
just,
turn in the first go round?
no, we have to split our turn. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Um, it was fun to see you in Kansas City
Mhm.
just a few weeks ago. And, every time we talk, you speak very highly of the fans and how the fans keep the show going and how grateful you are for the community and for the show. But I'm curious, what do fans say to you about Lee that surprises you or maybe just really moves you?
Okay, I have a story. So I was at this hotel for Christmas a few years ago, and I was sitting at a table with my family, my two boys and my wife, and we were just having lunch. And this Spanish couple from Mexico were in the corner, and my one son hates, I mean, hates when I get recognized. Drives him crazy. And he's like, "Oh my God, Dad, there's some people over there." And I look over, and there's this lovely family. And they came over, and they said hi, and I turned and I talked to them for a few minutes. But she was, and this has happened several times actually, but the woman identified very much with Pascal. She thought she was a firecracker, and she might well have been. And she was saying how much the couple meant to her. But then the husband sort of interjected, and he was like, more than that, thank you for Lee for kind of guiding me on how to deal with my firecracker wife and how to find patience and stuff like that. So it was really interesting. And then when I went back to my kids, so yes, they're embarrassed when I get noticed and stuff. But then I sat down and they're like, that was kind of cool, Dad. So what did they say? I'm like, no, they just have a couple and they identified with Pascal and I and how they deal with each other. And they're like, isn't that interesting? We're on our Christmas vacation and a family comes up to you and tells you how much your performance in When Calls the Heart
Mm.
meant to them as a couple in their lives from Mexico. And it was an interesting, revelation amongst just with my family, my little foursome, and it was, it's kind of, yeah, this is, it does really mean things to people,
Right.
and I think sometimes people take that lightly, and I don't mean to I'm constantly surprised by how much the show means to people. It's really wild to be a part of. I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the community that spurred out of it. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
So I'm I'm curious what you think is the strongest or maybe the arc for Lee that required the most for you as an actor. Because I think the strongest one was probably the whole arc with Susanna, with your sister,
Mm-hmm.
and you having to forgive and this past and everything. And so I was just curious if you agree
Yeah,
and what you think.
I think that was a good story arc. I've asked them several times to bring my sister back. I thought it would be interesting to pursue that some more, and
Mhm.
I enjoyed that very much. There was some, good dramatic beats in there and stuff. But I would
Tell
say,
them we agree. Tell
yeah,
them
yeah, we
the
agree.
fans.
But
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
I would say moving forward this season, there's a few coming up that like I said, there's a scene with Pascal and I can't say where. There's a scene with Joseph and I can't say where. And there's just some. I like the scenes even though I love working with Rosemary, they're big scenes. They're big. There's a lot going on. They're comedic scenes usually. I kind of like sometimes the small, still, quiet scenes where you just have two people just breathing and being with one another. So there are some of those scenes coming up, and I do think the arc of Lee going from losing the park and the theater with Rosemary, getting over his anger, sort of help foster raise this young lady and help her go through her troubles, and then trying to guide the town as mayor through all this. I think this season is one of Lee's best arcs too. We should revisit this conversation at the end of the season and see if you think that it's just as good an arc as that last one.
All right, we'll be ready.
Done.
Yes.
Okay.
So, of course, Lee has had many jobs and worn many hats since he's arrived in Hope Valley.
You could say that.
So, as Kavan, who would you want him to switch roles with for jobs with for like a week?
Oh, which of those jobs would I like to
Well,
do?
no, any job in Hope Valley for, like that's something like your co-stars get to do. Would you like to see Lee do?
Okay, there's a few. So I would love to do more of the horse stuff. I think the horse stuff is fun, and I get to do a little bit, not as much. I'm tired of driving the cars. The
Mm.
cars are hard to drive. They used to be easy to drive, but they're bona fide 125-year-old cars, and maybe not 125, 100 and some odd year old cars. And now we've driven them into the ground and they don't like to play nice with us anymore. So the cars are a pain in the butt to drive, but I would love to do more of the horse stuff. So it'd be fun to be a Mountie for a day or two, wear a surge. Um, what else? I love cooking, so it'd be fun to do something in a kitchen. I remember I was doing a scene in Abigail's, which is now I think Minnie's, but I was Peter DeLuise was directing this episode, and he was showing me how to sift something, and he was like, "Okay, you're grinding through this thing." I'm like, "No, you just go like this." And he's like, "Oh, well, that was much faster. Okay, let's just go with that." So I love to do things in the kitchen. I think that would be kind of fun. Um, yeah, that's about it. I think Lee has had every job in Hope Valley, so I don't know if there's
I
many
don't
other.
know if he's worked the mercantile yet, so maybe you
No,
could
he
switch with
hasn't worked
that.
the mercantile. And I love Rothgar, so I would absolutely relish that opportunity to do some more stuff with him.
Thanks.
You talked about Lee, who is such a pillar in the community, leads the community. We've already seen some of that this season. But also, one of our favorite things about Lee is he's just a really good friend.
Hmm.
And we've seen some interactions where he's, given wisdom to Hickam. I know for me, one of my favorite scenes of the entire season last year was when Lee confronted Lucas in Capital City and said, "I'm out of here." And I think
Yeah.
it really came from a friendship, that side of the friendship. So, what do you like about playing that friendship side of Lee? And will we be seeing him like give any wisdom to people moving forward this season that's powerful like that one?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I love playing the friendship stuff. I love those male friendships. I've my kids would probably disagree, but I've always been a guy who has like one or two very close friends and then not so many other friends. And that close bond is something that I've always searched for in my life. And I think that when you have a whole set full of people that you really like, it's very easy to slip into that role. Like you mentioned Chris and I doing that scene last year. We have another one this year, and where Lee gives advice, and it's another just good scene. And I am friends with him, and I do. He reminds me of my little brother, to be honest with you. And I like scenes with Viv, and I liked scenes with Daniel back in the day. I just think that I think it's an underappreciated dramatic relationship, guy best friends that just you don't see it a ton in shows, and I think it's a fun dynamic. Oops, I just kicked my chair and it went down. There we go. Um, I have we have a couple of good scenes this season coming up, and I hope they pursue it more. There's some really good stuff actually. I just remembered now with Chris. So Lucas and and Lee have several scenes moving forward that are really pretty profound. There's one in particular that I think it was probably episode 8 or something like that. And beforehand, I remember telling Chris, and there was like a lot of lines, like a lot of lines. And I was like, and I sometimes will try and intimidate. And I'm like, so be ready, because if you're not ready, I'm gonna steamroll you in this scene. So he was ready, and it ended up being a great scene, and I can't wait for the people to see that. But to your point, I love those scenes. I love friends, like just real friendships, people helping people. And on our show, there happens to be some good dynamics, and Lee's in a really good position to be. For he was friends with Hickam, he was friends with Joseph, he's friends with Mountie Jack, he's friends with. I like that aspect because I need more friends.
Well, that's exciting that we're going to get to see more of that. So
Yes,
thanks.
for sure.
Okay, so Christopher is back in town and he has a conversation with Henry, and it kind of hints at him having an issue. He's engaged to Lee's niece, and it seems like maybe the family is not so happy. Is Lee aware of this? And I know you can't tell us much. Do you have any interaction? Does this storyline move on?
There is some interactions as the storyline moves on. There are some things that happen that pull this group of people together that are involved in this situation. Um, I don't know if I can go into too much without giving too much away, but I do know what you're talking about, and I think it's a very smart storyline that was probably it was remiss to not bring it back sooner. I think it pulls a lot of other players back together. It gives Gowan some great places to go, and I think it brings those two characters together. Yeah, I think you're gonna love the way that turns out. Yeah, it's really cool. And the way it works yeah, it's a tough one to give you too much
That's
information
okay.
on
That's good
because it's a
though. I like it.
real plot thing, but it is something I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner. And when we read it and we were first pitched it, I was like, "Oh, that's a great idea." So, yes, it's gonna be
Good.
good.
Thank you. That's a good teaser.
There you go.
Well, along those lines, we're going to keep teasing. And episodes 1 through 3 were completely epic, right? So, for you, when you look at the overall season, what was the one episode for you that was your favorite to do? And then, what episode do you think for the fans at the end of the day is going to be their favorite?
Mm.
I
We're
I I have a favorite, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't exactly know which episode it is, but there is a scene, there's a bunch of stuff in this one episode between Lee and the young lady that they're fostering. And there's some just beautiful scenes that were so fun to shoot. Um, it was my favorite stuff because even though Lee's done quite a bit of um, you know, hardish kind of scenes with Rosemary, there's not been a lot of like real like tender moments with anybody else. So there are some with this other young lady, and um, in one scene in particular, where we're beside a lake. I won't tell you what we're doing, but Peter DeLuise again was the director of this particular episode, and the young lady in question, Alex, she was when Peter realizes that somebody can take notes, he starts dumping notes. He sees it almost as a challenge. So I was like, I think she can do whatever you want her to do. And so he's like, okay, well, let's so do this and then do this. And then on that line, do this and then do this here, turn this. So they turn. And she just, a lot of actors get terrified by that. It's too much information and they become a little bit tightened up and they close themselves off and then they stop working at all. And this little kid, yeah, what else? What else? I'll do it all. And then every take, she did every note. And it's just like, so for me, it was so fun that episode there in particular. Um, and then as far as what the fans would like the most, I mean, it depends. I mean, there's the romancy stuff. There's the potential of new budding romance. I mean, there's some pretty epic stuff between Elizabeth and Nathan, and I think that's always kind of the headliner. That's what our show is. So I think this is about a Mountie and a girl, and so I would say that there's an episode near the end that's pretty special for that. I would say that I'll even tease it a little bit more, and I would say that there is a shot in particular that was a hard fought shot to get that in the end I think is going to blow people away. And
Nice.
I think it's the final episode if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, stay tuned and you'll find out.
Lee and Rosemary have so many lighthearted moments, and I think us as the fans, we love those moments. But the opposite, I see is like the intense scenes that you guys have. I remember when Rosemary is sick and Lee's at her bedside and Lee gets injured. How do you guys as a team, I mean, you guys do the lighthearted so well. How do you guys come together cohesively and bring those intense scenes to life together?
Well, I think it's like I was saying earlier, it's really the dichotomy, the duality of doing the funny together with the dramatic. I don't think one works really without the other. I do think Lee and Rosemary in particular was her take on the character was kind of like the comedic relief. Like she's a big part of the comedic relief on the show. And as a performer, if you get stuck in just one kind of thing like that,
Mhm.
it can be a bit stagnant. And but when she and I also think when she does go bigger, if you juxtapose it with going smaller, it makes the bigger
Mhm.
stuff better. It makes it more funny and stand out. Whereas if it's just always humming on high, it just kind of it can get a little you can go a little nose blind to it. But when she comes back down and gives you something that's so grounded and real and vulnerable and open, it's like, oh, and then that bit becomes lighter and you can enjoy it more, I think. Um, so I do think that, especially these two together, they have so many moments, and we are incorrigible on set. Like we'll take serious scenes and make them comedic scenes all the time if somebody's not reining us in. So, and then we'll take comedic scenes and make them profound and heartfelt at times. I think we do the opposite of everything they want us to do. But but I guess it just goes back to the idea of wanting to be real actors where you get to do a bit of everything. And I think when you juxtapose those two things, the funny and the dramatic together, it's quite fulfilling. Like I get a big buzz from doing funny things, but I think the buzz from doing something dramatic is probably even a little bit more so. But two
Mhm.
things together balanced well is, I think, what, most actors would strive for.
Thank you. That's
Yes.
awesome.
So you've talked about how Lee has been involved in lots of businesses in Hope Valley. Do you
Yep.
have a business story you'd like to see play out on screen? And does it include a current business or would you like a new business?
God, no more new businesses. No, it's interesting because we joked about this a fair bit over the years. Is he hasn't done much with the lumber mill, but this is changing. He is starting a new business. So I forget which episode it is, but it's early on. It's like three or four or something like that. But Lee does in fact start a new, very big business, as a matter of fact. So I don't know how he's going to manage all these different jobs, but yeah, careful what you wish for because Lee's got another job coming. Yeah.
I mean, I think fans will be excited to see Lee shine again in another business.
Well, I hope so. I hope they give him the grace of having another job because I think this is about five or six now. So it's a little unrealistic. Only in television can a guy have six jobs.
Love it.
So I'm just curious, before you did When Calls the Heart, you did a lot of sci-fi, and I'm just curious, do you miss doing the sci-fi, the aliens and stuff like that?
It's interesting. Again, I was never really a sci-fi guy myself. I really started to enjoy the sci-fi stuff once I started on Eureka. When I got
Mm-hmm.
to add humor to the character, so I played a robot who had a crush on a house computer, and he was a deputy in this little town called Eureka, and uh, that was when I finally started to understand because we worked with there was some on that show in particular, there was some really big sci-fi actors on our show. They were very famous in the sci-fi community, and I got to see them and I got to watch their following and the fan following, and I started to gain an appreciation for it. And I loved that show. That show was such an interesting mix of heart and humor. And I do know that when that sci-fi bug hits, like one of the directors on our show, Martin Wood, who's done a bunch of When Calls over the years, he loves sci-fi and would drop all of this in a heartbeat to just go shoot Star Trek somewhere for the rest of his life. But I don't know that that's necessarily me. I did played a lot of bad guys over the years. That was always fun, like gangstery type things. That's always a blast. But I guess at my age now, and where I am, and where I am with my family and my kids, the Hallmark universe is kind of a good fit for me. I mean, it's a weird place. I never thought I'd end up here ever, and
Yeah.
yet it's a strange but comfortable fit. Like I've done pretty much everything there is beforehand. The sci-fi was a big part of my career. Um, but oddly enough, I'm in this weird little pocket now and I quite like it. It's been I've never worked with this many friends. And when you get to a certain age, they say that you got to have three two of the three things to make a good career. It's got to have good, it's got to be a good project, it's got to be good money, or it's got a good big people. No, there's no money. So it's good people and good projects. So we've got those now, and I'm very content to be where I am.
Very good. Yeah, we couldn't work supernatural into or sci-fi into Hope Valley very well, I don't think.
No, I do miss Supernatural. So some of the characters in from sci-fi are fun because they're just so outlandish that it's you think.
I guess you had that Hallmark movie with the phone with the
Oh
it
yeah,
goes. Yeah.
That's right.
Supernatural.
That is a little supernatural.
Maybe that's as close as we can get.
Yeah. Forget what that one was called. You
Yeah.
had me at hello. You had me at hello. No, that was something else.
No, that was the Hawaii one.
Yeah. I forget. Yeah, I'm getting old. Not as old as Jack, but I'm old. Okay, next question.
Well, we've got a lot of amazing guest stars. Of course, we have Brooke Shields and Melissa Gilbert coming back. And then if you could pick somebody, so kind of bouncing off of that, pick somebody you've worked with in other projects, who would you want to bring to Hope Valley? Which actor and what character would you give him or her?
I've worked with a lot of interesting people over the years. I was very privileged once to work with George C. Scott before he passed away. And he was an interesting character. And without going into details about names or anything, I will tell you a quick little story. And it was really interesting to watch. So I would like him to be on the show. Unfortunately, that's never going to happen. That would be supernatural. But I was doing a show with him, and the director was a bit abusive with he's just mean, a shouty kind of guy. And he was shouting about this one particular kid, just a young kid, maybe she was 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And he just wanted her to be louder. And it was just one of those horrible Hollywood stories you hear about. And he was shouting. And I didn't realize how big a man George C. Scott is, even as a very elderly man. He is a big bear of a guy. And so the director is kind of shouting, not at the girl, but around about the girl. And at one point, George C. Scott, again, very elderly, but took his big bear paw and just gently pushed the director onto the wall and said, "I think that's about enough of that, boss." And I just thought, cool. I got to see George C. Scott lay down the law. It was really cool. So it was one of my favorite stories from earlier in my career. And if there were a way to bring George C. Scott back, he'd be great as like an old judge or maybe a grandfatherly character. He'd be really cool.
Very cool.
Yep.
You talked a little bit earlier about a favorite episode that you had that we might have. I'm curious, as you were reading the script or as the season played out, is there something that you think we are really going to be surprised about this season?
Surprised about?
I don't want to use the word shocked, but
yeah.
Right.
Well, it's super shocking when the meteor hits, but other than that, I don't know if there's anything that shocking. Is there anything? I do think that the way that we're going, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of stuff that we're building through. There's the fire and all the calamity that comes with that, and the rebuilding that comes with that, and the new relationships and the old relationships strengthening. And the kids go through some ups and downs, even some younger relationships. But I can't think of anything that's jarringly surprising that is going to freak anybody out. Unfortunately, Jack develops dementia, and but it wasn't written into the script.
My gosh. Poor Bill. Poor Jack.
It wouldn't be an interview if I didn't get to trash Jack a little bit.
I set you up for that one.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so we know McGinty is back, and he is not a nice guy. He's a villain. And I was curious if the storyline with him wraps up early on, or is it something that plays out through the season?
It plays out for a while. Um, and oh gosh, how do I do this?
Sorry, I don't want
No,
you to.
no, no, I'm trying to just think how I can sort of tease this a little bit without giving too much away. When you have a character like McGinty, when you have somebody who's, apparently that unnice a person, somebody that mean, there's usually a reason.
Right. Oh,
And
that's good. Okay.
yeah, and so maybe he's not as horrible as we think.
Okay. All right. I was
Or
wondering.
or at least maybe there's a reason to, but and maybe there's some humanity in the character that
Okay.
comes out. I know in particular there is a scene that we shot that is that was, gosh, I just can't give it away. There's no way to really tease it other than to say is that maybe there's more to McGinty than meets the eye.
All right. And that
And
would be
that
the
can
hope
be
that
the
we want.
surprise.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could be
So,
the surprise. You're right.
yes.
That could be the
Yes.
surprise. And
Yeah.
that is surprising. And the way that ties up is it's a scene stealer, I'll say that.
All right. Such goodies.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm the mystery guy, so I do have to bring a little bit of Nelly into
Sure,
this.
please do. Yes.
So we have a Nelly coming out some point, hopefully later this year. And when you look at your characters, you've got Lee and you've got Mike, and Roxanne's going to be crashing your lunch tomorrow with Pascal.
Yep.
Who do you think, when she starts talking to you, do you like probably identify more with of
Am I
those two?
talking to Nellie or am I talking
You're
to
talking to
Rosemary?
Roxanne. Like, so when she sees you, which of those characters is more like you?
Oh, that's a yeah, interesting. I would say I'm probably split down the middle. I think I
Oh,
aspire to
that's a
be.
cop out.
I know, I'm gonna give you something. I'm going somewhere with it.
Oh,
I would say that I've set Lee up to be almost kind of impossibly patient, so I can't really aspire to that in my own personal life. I fall dramatically short. With Michael, I feel like it's achievable. I could be more like Michael, but again, it's only two installments of the franchise so far, so it's hard to say what we're going to develop for the character, but they seem to be kind of just going with what we are and what we can do naturally reasonably well. So I think I'm probably more like Michael than I am like Lee. Um, I would say I would aspire to be more like Lee than Michael, though. I think that Lee is somebody that I've kind of set my sights on to try and be more like myself, and or for me, Kavan, to be more like Lee. Whereas I haven't set that standard for Michael yet, so it's probably far more achievable. But like you said, I do hope that shelved, not shelved, but that in the can movie comes out soon because I know that I've met with the writer and the producers and the director, and we've definitely got more ideas. We've got some great ideas to move forward, some really fun stuff, and the one that's in the can is a fantastic idea. I can't wait for people to see it. Um, if anybody's out there and really wants to see another installment, put some pressure on Hallmark and let's get that out there
Does
because
it
we'd love to shoot more.
does it stay as Scooby Doo as the first one?
It's got Scooby Doo to it, but it has a lot of Knives Out to it as well. Like it's got a bit of bite to it. We bring in a lot of new characters and again, there was a lot going on, and we were able to get it was just a lull in the market. We were able to get some really great people, which we can't
oh,
normally afford to do. So, but we got great actors coming in and playing cameos in it, and it's a really well written installment of the franchise, and I really think that it's got some of the Scooby Doo to it, but they're starting to figure out their relationship, Nellie and Mike, and then I think that the story itself is kind of a little more current perhaps maybe than the last one, and it's got some more bite to it, and I think the writing was a little pointier than the first one. So I can't believe that we've been sitting on it all this time. I think it's a real gem that we're just sitting on.
I'm there with you.
Yeah, I wish they just get it out there because like we're chomping at the bit. They've got us for a bunch more episodes, and we just wanna do it. So, and I think it was a strong episode. So I don't know. Somebody talk to them and get it released.
All right. Well, Roxanne, you're going to have to report back of who he's more like.
Okay.